Justice is not something the world will hand to you as a gift, nor is it a favor distributed by fate or society out of kindness. In its truest sense, justice is not a prepackaged privilege delivered to the fortunate. It is the outcome of struggle, of deliberate action, of persistence carried out in silence and hardship. If you expect life to be fair by design, you are already preparing yourself for disappointment, because the reality is that life was never designed to be fair. Some are born into comfort, while others fight for every scrap. Some rise to recognition quickly, while others toil for decades without acknowledgement. Yet, Stoicism teaches that rather than wasting energy resenting this inequality, we must accept it as the natural condition of existence, and then decide to create justice with our own hands through our discipline and perseverance. Think of the people you know, or the figures in history who reached true greatness. Almost none of them walked along a road paved with ease and applause. They faced rejection, ridicule, betrayal, and countless closed doors. What set them apart was not that the universe finally decided to become fair to them, but that they made themselves too strong, too skilled, and too persistent to be ignored. Justice, for them, was not recognition that arrived from outside. It was the undeniable result they carved into reality. The lesson is clear. The more you persist, the more you refine yourself, the more justice slowly begins to appear in your life. It does not appear because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You have grown strong enough to meet injustice on equal terms and rise above it. A Stoic understands that justice never comes from pity. Begging for fairness is surrendering your power to someone else's mercy. True justice begins the moment you decide to stop waiting. It is born when you look at yourself in the mirror and declare, no matter how unfair this world may be, I will not surrender. I will create justice for myself. That declaration is not just a sentence. It is a seed. Each act of discipline, each moment of resilience, each refusal to give up, waters that seed until it grows into something unshakable. Justice then is no longer an abstract concept. It becomes something real, something earned, something alive in you. People often mistake justice for equality, but equality is not the same as justice. Equality means everyone gets the same. Justice means each person receives what they have earned. If you want more than you currently have, you must become someone who deserves more. If you want to move beyond the unfair weight life has placed on you, you must become stronger than that weight. And strength is not built overnight. It is carved slowly, painfully, through persistence and willpower. Imagine being knocked down on life's battlefield. If you stay on the ground complaining about fate, you will be trampled and forgotten. But if you rise again, even bleeding, even shaking, even scarred, then each rise is itself a form of justice. Because each time you stand, you reclaim a piece of your dignity, and eventually those pieces form a whole. Justice cannot be begged for, borrowed, or bought. It must be earned. And to earn it, you must stop looking for fairness in the world outside and start building it within yourself. Every unfair rejection, every betrayal, every lost opportunity is not proof that life is against you. It is material to shape your character. The Stoic way is to transform injustice into fuel. What once broke you becomes what strengthens you. What once silenced you becomes what gives you voice. Others may call it luck when they finally see you succeed, but you will know better. You will know that what they call luck is simply the natural outcome of years of quiet, consistent persistence. History shows us powerful examples. Marcus Aurelius, though an emperor, suffered betrayal and grief, yet he wrote words of calm wisdom instead of rage. Epictetus, once a slave beaten by his master, used his suffering as training for the mind, proving that dignity could never be taken away unless surrendered. Their lives embody a profound truth. The greatest justice is not being treated gently by the world, but becoming a person whom no injustice can break. They demonstrate that justice is not something waiting out there in the hands of others. It is something you build, piece by piece, inside your soul. And that is perhaps the deepest lesson. Stoicism teaches us that external justice is uncertain and fragile, but inner justice is unshakable. When you have given your all, when you have refused to bow down to unfairness, you can look yourself in the eye and say, I did not quit. That simple statement is a form of justice greater than any recognition or reward. It means you stayed true to your path, even when the world tried to push you off it. It means you honored yourself, even when no one else did. The world outside may remain unfair forever. Some people will always have more advantages, more opportunities, more fortune than you. But if you remain steadfast, if you choose persistence over bitterness, then you create a kind of justice that no one can take away. It is justice built from inner strength, the kind that does not depend on applause or approval. It is justice that exists the moment you prove to yourself, I am worthy. I have fought, and I have reclaimed justice with my own hands. When life strikes you with injustice, your first instinct may be to cry out, to complain, to demand answers from the universe. You want to shout, why me? Why now? Why this? That impulse is human, but it is also a trap. Complaints change nothing. They do not move mountains. They do not alter fate. They do not build strength. All they do is drain your spirit while leaving the world exactly as it was before. The Stoics understood this truth clearly. The only real strength you possess lies not in how loudly you voice your suffering, but in how firmly you control yourself in the face of it. Self-control is not glamorous. It does not attract immediate applause. In fact, it often feels invisible, because no one but you may notice the storms you hold back within your own chest. Yet this invisible strength is the foundation upon which all external justice must be built. You cannot master the unfairness of the outside world until you have first mastered the turbulence of your own mind. A person who has not learned self-control is like a ship with broken sails. Every gust of wind, every wave, every insult of circumstance will toss them about, and they will go nowhere. But the one who has trained themselves in restraint becomes like a vessel with a steady rudder, able to navigate even the wildest seas. The modern world rewards noise. We live in a culture that often believes the loudest complaint gets the most attention. And sometimes, in practical matters, it does. But attention is not justice, and it is certainly not peace. The Stoic does not waste energy seeking to make the world bend to their cries. Instead, they turn inward and ask, what is within my control? What belongs to me and what does not? And the moment you ask that question honestly, you discover something liberating. Almost everything in life is outside your control, but your thoughts, your choices, your actions, these are always yours. Consider a worker overlooked for a promotion. He may spend weeks cursing his boss, gossiping to colleagues, bitterly venting at home. Does this restore fairness? No, it only deepens the wound. Or he may decide, with quiet self-control, to sharpen his skills, to continue showing discipline, to prepare himself so well that when the next opportunity comes, no bias can deny him. One path is complaint, the other is control. One drains energy, the other builds it. The results of these two choices over a lifetime could not be more different. Epictetus, born into slavery, had every reason to complain. He was beaten, insulted, and treated as property. Yet he taught that freedom is not about external circumstances. It is about the ability to govern one's own mind. You may fetter my leg, he said, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will. This is the heart of Stoicism, the power to decide that no matter what life takes from you, it cannot take away your ability to choose your attitude. That is the highest form of justice one can ever claim, the justice of self-ownership. To practice self-control, you must first see complaint for what it is, a reflex of weakness. It is the soul's way of handing over responsibility, as if saying, I cannot endure this, someone else must fix it. But the Stoic knows that endurance is strength. Life does not become more just because you cry louder. It becomes more just because you act wiser, because you discipline your impulses, because you refuse to let circumstances dictate who you are. Imagine two people struck by the same misfortune. One rages, curses, and sinks into despair. The other acknowledges the pain, steadies themselves, and decides, this I will bear, and this I will use. To outside eyes, the same injustice has occurred, but the outcomes could not be more different. One has become a victim of life's unfairness. The other has transformed into its master. The injustice remains, but the second person has reclaimed something far greater, authority over their own being. Self-control is not suppression, it is transformation. Many people misunderstand restraint as bottling up emotions, forcing oneself to stay silent, while anger or grief churns beneath the surface. True Stoic self-control is different. It does not deny the existence of pain. It acknowledges it, faces it, and then directs it. Anger becomes determination. Grief becomes clarity. Fear becomes focus. What you control is not whether these emotions arise. That is beyond you. What you control is what you do with them once they appear. Complaints scatter them into useless noise. Discipline forges them into power. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled during wars, plagues, and betrayal. His journals, later known as meditations, are filled not with rants against unfairness, but with reminders to himself to remain steady, to accept what is beyond him, and to act with justice where he could. He wrote not to the world, but to his own mind, training it in restraint. He knew that an emperor could command armies, but without commanding his own thoughts, he would be powerless. In this lies the Stoic paradox. True power is not ruling others, it is ruling oneself. We live in a time when self-expression is often mistaken for strength. People believe that saying whatever they feel, however loudly, is a form of empowerment. But Stoicism asks, what is more powerful, to shout your anger or to master it? To display your wounds or to heal them in silence? Strength is not in how much noise you make, but in how unshaken you remain when life makes its noise against you. This does not mean silence in the face of injustice is always virtuous. There are times when speaking out is necessary, but Stoicism reminds us that even then, our words must come not from the chaos of complaint, but from the clarity of control. A complaint is reactive, born of weakness. A controlled voice is deliberate, born of strength. The former begs, the latter commands, and only the latter has the power to change things. Self-control also brings dignity. When you complain, you hand over your dignity to the very forces that wronged you. You admit, in a sense, that they still own you, that they dictate how you feel, how you speak, how you live. But when you hold your ground, refusing to let unfairness define you, you remain sovereign. You may suffer, but you do not surrender. This dignity is invisible to the world, but it is priceless to the soul. The great irony is that people who complain often believe they are resisting injustice, when in fact they are enslaved by it. They spend their lives circling the same bitterness, while those with self-control move forward, free from the chains of resentment. Complaint keeps you trapped in the past. Self-control pulls you into the future. The Stoics trained for this daily. They practiced voluntary discomfort, cold baths, simple meals, long periods of silence. These were not acts of self-punishment, but acts of preparation, teaching themselves that they could endure more than they thought. The lesson was simple. If you can control your response to small hardships, you will be ready when greater injustices strike. Complaints have no place in this training. They only weaken resolve. Every act of self-restraint, however small, builds the fortress of the mind. Injustice will never vanish from the world. It is part of life's landscape. What matters is whether it breaks you or makes you. Complaint guarantees it will break you. Self-control guarantees it will make you. And this choice between bitterness and mastery is one that confronts you every single day, in small ways and large. You may not control the storm, but you can always control how you sail through it. At the heart of Stoicism lies this truth. You are not judged by what happens to you, but by how you respond. Life may strip you of wealth, status, even health, but it can never strip away your power to decide your reaction. That power is sacred. That power is justice in its purest form. When you refuse to hand it over through complaint, when you seize it with discipline, you become unassailable. So the next time life treats you unfairly, pause before you complain. Ask yourself instead, what can I control in this moment? How can I act with dignity, with clarity, with strength? You may not be able to change the situation, but you will have changed yourself. And that is the essence of justice. It is not the world bending toward you, but you bending your will into something so unshakable that no injustice can defeat it. In the end, strength lies not in noise, but in stillness, not in complaint, but in composure. The world will always have storms, but the Stoic becomes the calm within them. And in that calm, justice is no longer something you wait for. It is something you already carry inside you. The world does not stop to calculate what you deserve. It moves forward indifferent to your sense of fairness, indifferent to your suffering, indifferent to how hard you have worked. Life does not keep a ledger, carefully balancing every hour you labored with the exact reward you imagine you deserve. To expect it to do so is to invite disappointment. Yet the Stoics remind us that justice can be built, not by demanding the world change its ways, but by increasing your own worth until it can no longer ignore you. Justice, in this sense, is not something received, it is something recognized. And recognition only comes when you make yourself valuable enough that injustice no longer holds power over you. This is a difficult lesson because it shifts the focus away from blame and toward responsibility. It is far easier to point at the world and say, I am overlooked because it is unfair, than it is to look inward and say, I am overlooked because I have not yet created enough value. But the second statement, though harder, is empowering. If the problem is only the world, you are helpless. If the problem is within you, you can act, improve, and change. That shift from complaint to responsibility is the moment you begin to build justice through the growth of your own character. Consider the artist whose work goes unseen. They may cry out that the world does not appreciate them, that the market is unjust, that people prefer shallow entertainment to depth. All of this may be true. Yet the artist who grows, who improves their craft relentlessly, who learns how to reach people with clarity and power, this artist eventually breaks through. The world does not suddenly become fair. The artist becomes undeniable. Value, not noise, creates justice. The Stoic mind understands this dynamic deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." In other words, do not argue about fairness. Become so just, so strong, so disciplined that your very life is proof of the justice you seek. Complaints are hollow, but value is irrefutable. A person who brings worth to others, who cultivates skill, who embodies integrity, will be recognized, even if not immediately, even if not by all. And if recognition does not come, their value remains intact, shining quietly as its own reward. Value is not measured only by wealth or achievement. It is measured by the depth of your character, the consistency of your actions, and the strength of your will. These are the currencies the Stoics cared about most. Anyone may stumble into fortune by chance, but true value is forged only by deliberate effort. The unjust world may deny you titles, but it cannot deny the worth you build within yourself. And over time, that worth becomes so apparent that even the unjust are forced to acknowledge it. We see this in history repeatedly. Socrates was condemned by the Athenian court, forced to drink poison for crimes he did not commit. By worldly standards, this was the height of injustice. Yet by increasing his value through a life of relentless inquiry, of honesty, of courage, he achieved a justice that no trial could erase. His name outlived his judges. His philosophy outlasted the city that killed him. Injustice silenced his body, but not his value. His worth became eternal, and through it, justice was restored in a way no courtroom could have delivered. This lesson applies in every corner of life. A worker who feels exploited must ask, how do I increase my value so that exploitation cannot touch me? A parent who feels unappreciated must ask, how do I embody such integrity and love that appreciation becomes inevitable? A person betrayed by friends must ask, how do I become so rooted in my own dignity that betrayal cannot diminish me? The questions always return to the same point. Injustice fades when you become more valuable than it can diminish. But increasing your value is not easy. It demands patience, humility, and discipline. It means admitting that you are not yet where you need to be. It means rising earlier, practicing longer, reading more, reflecting deeper. It means building habits when others chase distractions and cultivating character when others waste themselves on bitterness. It means turning each injustice into a lesson, asking not, why me? But what can I learn here? What strength can I build from this? Each answer increases your value. Each step forward makes you harder to ignore. The Stoics also remind us that value is not for others alone. It is first for yourself. You grow not to prove the world wrong, but to make yourself right. You increase your worth not for applause, but for integrity. Injustice may strip you of recognition, but it cannot touch the dignity of knowing you have become more capable, more resilient, more wise. This inner justice is the truest kind, for it depends on no one's approval. It is built entirely within, and therefore cannot be taken away. Of course, there will be times when value seems invisible. You may study, labor, sacrifice, and still remain unacknowledged. In these moments, the temptation to declare life unfair grows strong. But the Stoic answers, justice is not delayed when the world fails to see you. It is only delayed if you fail to keep building yourself. Recognition may take years. Sometimes it never arrives. But value always speaks, if not to others, then to your own soul. And that voice, that quiet knowledge that you have improved, is a justice that no injustice can silence. Imagine a blacksmith hammering steel. Each blow seems small, insignificant. The metal resists, refusing to take shape. But with persistence, it transforms into a sword of strength and beauty. Your growth works the same way. Each effort, each sacrifice, each refusal to quit under unfairness increases your value. Others may not see it immediately, but the steel inside you is being forged. One day, when the blade is complete, the world will recognize it. And even if it does not, you will hold the weapon of your own worth in your hands. Increasing your value also protects you from bitterness. Complaint feeds resentment. Growth dissolves it. When you are focused on building skill, wisdom, and strength, you have no time to obsess over what others receive. Their advantages no longer concern you because your value is growing at a pace that no injustice can stop. This is liberation. Justice is no longer something withheld from you by others. It is something you carry with you wherever you go. The practical question then is, how do you increase your value? The Stoics would answer, by aligning your life with virtue. Cultivate wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the 4 cardinal virtues. Each decision rooted in these makes you more valuable. Wisdom sharpens your judgment, courage strengthens your actions, justice earns the trust of others, and temperance keeps you steady against excess. Together, they form a value so deep that injustice cannot uproot it. This is not abstract philosophy, it is daily practice. Wake each day and ask, how can I make myself better than I was yesterday? Read what sharpens the mind. Train what strengthens the body. Reflect on what purifies the soul. These small acts, accumulated over months and years, create value that shines brighter than any temporary unfairness. They make you into someone so strong that justice is no longer something to beg for, but something that flows naturally from who you are. Injustice is real, but it is also temporary. Value is permanent. Build enough of it, and you will outlast every unfair blow. Build enough of it, and you will transform injustice into fuel. Build enough of it, and you will discover that justice was never about what the world gave you. It was always about what you gave to yourself. The Stoics never promised that life would be fair. They promised something greater, that you could become so valuable, so resilient, so virtuous, that life's unfairness would lose its sting. And in that transformation lies the highest justice of all. So if you feel the weight of injustice today, do not let it chain you. Do not complain. Do not surrender. Ask instead, how can I increase my value? How can I grow until unfairness has no power over me? Then take the next step. Then take another, and another. With each one, your worth grows, your strength solidifies, and your justice begins to take shape, not as a gift from the world, but as a crown you forged yourself. In the end, justice is not found in the balance of fate. It is found in the weight of your own character, and the more value you create, the more unshakable that justice becomes. When someone wrongs you, the fire that rises in your chest is unmistakable. You feel the sting of betrayal, the humiliation of being overlooked, the anger of being treated unfairly. The instinct to retaliate is ancient. It whispers, strike back, make them feel what they made you feel. But Stoicism tells us this is not the path to justice. Revenge may satisfy an impulse, but it does not heal a wound. It does not restore your dignity. It stains it further. True justice, the Stoics teach, is not found in inflicting harm, but in creating a life so strong, so successful, that no injustice can diminish it. This principle is both liberating and demanding. It asks you to rise above the level of those who hurt you, to refuse to sink into the mud where they dwell. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. When wronged, you have 2 choices: become a mirror of cruelty or become a model of excellence. One path drags you down into bitterness, the other elevates you into strength. The question then is simple. Do you want to live bound by your enemy's actions or freed by your own triumphs? Revenge keeps you tethered to the one who hurt you. Each thought of retaliation ties you more tightly to their offense, making them the author of your story. But success breaks that chain. When you build a life of meaning and strength, the person who wronged you becomes irrelevant. They shrink into the past while you stand in the present, taller than before. Success does not erase the injustice, but it renders it powerless. What once seemed like a defining wound becomes nothing more than a scar. Visible, perhaps, but incapable of stopping your stride. Consider Epictetus. Born a slave, beaten by his master, mocked and silenced, he had every reason to crave revenge. But instead of wasting energy plotting harm, he cultivated his mind, his discipline, his philosophy. He transformed suffering into wisdom so profound that centuries later, his words still guide us. Had he pursued vengeance, his name would have vanished with his enemies. Instead, by answering injustice with mastery of self, he secured a form of victory no whip, no chain, no tyrant could take away. This is the Stoic path. When life denies you fairness, do not strike back with venom. Answer with growth. When you are betrayed, build resilience. When you are silenced, sharpen your voice. When you are pushed down, rise higher. Your success becomes your rebuttal. Your calm becomes your weapon. Your perseverance becomes your triumph. Revenge is temporary. Success is eternal. To understand why success is the only true answer, consider what revenge actually does. It feeds anger, which consumes you more than your enemy. It keeps your wounds open, poisoning your spirit long after the original harm was done. You think you are punishing them, but in truth, you are punishing yourself, carrying their shadow everywhere you go. The Stoic knows better. Justice is not destroying your enemy, but refusing to be destroyed by them. Success, however, is not just personal gain, it is transformation. It is the proof that you took injustice and turned it into fuel. Every great figure in history who overcame adversity did so not by lashing out, but by rising up. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison under an unjust system. He could have emerged seeking vengeance, but he chose reconciliation, strength, and leadership. That choice did not erase the injustice, but it made him greater than it. His triumph answered his captors more powerfully than retaliation ever could. On a personal level, imagine being ridiculed, told you will never amount to anything. Revenge would tempt you to insult in return, to strike back with cruelty. But success asks you to hold your tongue, to sharpen your skills, to rise until the very people who mocked you are forced into silence by the undeniable reality of your achievements. You do not need to shout. Your life speaks louder than words. The Stoics believed that the true battlefield is always internal. When wronged, the enemy is not only the one who harmed you, it is also your own rage, your own desire for revenge. If you conquer them but lose yourself to anger, you have still lost. But if you conquer your anger, if you refuse to let bitterness guide your steps, then you have already won, regardless of what your enemy suffers. This is why the Stoics saw self-mastery as the highest form of justice. For what is revenge, if not letting your enemy dictate who you become? And what is success, if not proving that you belong only to yourself? Success, of course, must be defined wisely. It is not merely wealth or recognition, though these may come. Stoic success is the cultivation of virtue, the building of character, the creation of a life aligned with reason and integrity. This success cannot be taken by betrayal, by loss, or even by death. It is eternal because it resides not in what others give you, but in what you give yourself. Revenge is measured by how much you make another suffer. Success is measured by how much you make yourself stronger. Which would you rather hold at the end of your days? It is natural to feel anger at injustice. The Stoics never denied this. What they denied was the surrender to anger. Anger is a spark. You can burn yourself with it, or you can use it to forge steel. A Stoic takes the heat of injustice and shapes it into discipline, determination, and dignity. Revenge wastes it. Success refines it. You may wonder, does answering injustice with success let the wrongdoer escape? Perhaps in the eyes of the world, yes. But in the eyes of your soul, no. For the greatest punishment you can give your enemy is your refusal to be ruined by them. Their cruelty fails. Their betrayal fails. Their injustice fails. Each time you grow stronger, calmer, and more successful in response, their attempt to harm you collapses. They intended to break you, and yet here you are, unbroken, thriving. That is justice. That is victory. Marcus Aurelius lived among betrayals, political schemes, and ceaseless wars. He could have drowned in vengeance, executing those who opposed him. But in his writings, we find no obsession with revenge. Instead, we find reminders to act with justice, to remain calm, to rise above pettiness. His legacy is not one of cruelty, but of wisdom. He achieved a success of spirit that far outlasted the fleeting victories of his rivals. Revenge tempts you to settle for small victories. Success urges you toward great ones. The person who insults you can be silenced with a sharper insult, or they can be silenced forever by the undeniable proof of your excellence. Which answer is greater? The first lasts a moment, the second lasts a lifetime. When injustice strikes, then, the Stoic asks, how can I turn this into growth? What skill can I sharpen? What strength can I build? What virtue can I embody? This mindset transforms every wrong into an opportunity. The world may deny you fairness, but it cannot deny the progress you make in response. In this way, injustice becomes paradoxical. It becomes the very source of your eventual success. The more you are tested, the stronger you become. So the next time someone wrongs you, resist the pull of revenge. Do not waste your energy plotting their pain. Instead, ask yourself, what will prove them wrong without a word? What life can I build that renders their injustice meaningless? Then take a step. Work harder, train longer, grow wiser. Each act of progress is a silent rebuke, each success a louder statement than revenge could ever deliver. In time, you will look back and see that revenge would have chained you to the past. Success has carried you into the future. Revenge would have made you like your enemy. Success has made you unlike them, greater, stronger, freer. And that is the ultimate justice. Not that the world treats you fairly, but that you become someone who no injustice can defeat. To most people, the word endurance carries an image of passivity, of someone simply bearing pain, waiting silently for suffering to pass. Our culture often equates strength with aggression, speed, dominance, and the ability to strike back. But the Stoics saw a deeper truth. Endurance is not weakness. Endurance is strength in its purest form. Anyone can lash out in anger. Anyone can collapse in despair. But to remain steady under hardship, to endure without breaking, to carry the weight of injustice and still walk forward, that is the mark of true power. When life is unfair, when betrayal wounds you, when opportunities are stolen, you face a choice. You can give in to bitterness, surrender to self-pity, and declare yourself broken. Or you can endure. You can stand firm, even when the storm rages, even when every voice tells you to quit. Endurance does not deny the storm, it outlasts it. And that endurance, the Stoics teach, is the greatest strength a human being can possess. Think of a tree battered by winds. A shallow-rooted tree is uprooted quickly, collapsing with the storm. But a tree with deep roots bends, sways, groans under the weight of the wind, and yet survives. Endurance is not about appearing unshaken. It is about remaining unbroken. You may bend, you may stagger, you may even fall to your knees. But if you endure, if you rise again, you prove yourself stronger than the storm. The world often misunderstands this. It praises the warrior who charges, but it overlooks the quiet power of the one who withstands. Yet history shows us that endurance creates victories far greater than brute force ever could. Epictetus, crippled and enslaved, endured cruelty that would have crushed most souls. But through endurance, he turned suffering into wisdom, his chains into philosophy. His very survival, his refusal to surrender his mind to despair, became his triumph. He did not fight back with fists, he endured with spirit. And that endurance echoes louder than any act of violence could have. Endurance is not passive resignation, it is active resilience. To endure is to say, this hardship will not define me, this injustice will not destroy me. I will carry it, I will bear it, I will walk forward anyway. It is the decision to keep living with dignity when life gives you every reason to abandon it. The Stoics trained for this daily, reminding themselves each morning. Hardship will come, people will disappoint you, life will not be fair. By expecting difficulty, they built a mindset ready to endure it, and in that endurance, they found freedom. There is a common illusion that the strongest people are those who never feel pain. But this is false. The strongest people are those who feel pain deeply, yet continue to move forward. Strength is not the absence of suffering. It is the refusal to be defeated by it. To endure does not mean to feel nothing. It means to acknowledge your wounds, to accept them, and to walk on with them. This honesty, this courage, is what makes endurance noble. When you endure, you transform suffering. Pain left unchecked corrodes the soul, but pain endured becomes fuel. Each hardship carried without surrender becomes a layer of armor. Each trial faced becomes a lesson. Each injustice survived becomes a source of wisdom. Slowly, you become unshakable. Others may wonder how you continue standing, how you keep your composure, how you remain calm under blows. The answer is simple. Endurance has forged you into something stronger than pain itself. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who lost many of his children in infancy, who ruled during wars and plagues, who faced betrayal even within his own household. He endured grief that would have broken lesser men. And yet he wrote in his meditations reminders to himself: remain steady, remain just, remain in harmony with reason. His endurance was not the absence of sorrow, it was the refusal to let sorrow consume him. Through endurance, he ruled with dignity when he could have collapsed into despair. That is strength. Endurance also teaches patience. Injustice often tempts us to demand quick resolutions, immediate relief, fast rewards. But life does not work on our timetable. To endure is to accept that justice may not come today, perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps not even in this lifetime. Yet you keep walking. You plant seeds whose fruit you may never taste. You carry burdens whose weight shapes your strength. This patience is rare in a world addicted to speed, but it is what separates the weak from the truly powerful. Some will mock endurance as weakness, as though enduring is simply taking it. They misunderstand. Weakness is collapsing, surrendering, becoming bitter. Strength is staying the course, even while bloodied. Endurance is the ability to look at injustice and say, you may hurt me, but you will not own me. You may slow me, but you will not stop me. You may break my body, but my will endures. In those words lies more strength than in any shout of anger. Endurance also protects your dignity. Revenge, as we explored, chains you to your enemies. Complaint chains you to your circumstances. But endurance liberates you. When you endure, you declare independence from both cruelty and fortune. You are no longer defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond. And when your response is endurance, no injustice can reduce you. You remain sovereign. It is easy to be kind, patient, and composed when life is smooth. True character is revealed in endurance, when you hold your values under fire, when you remain gentle while suffering, when you continue to act with integrity, though the world gives you none in return. This is why endurance is not weakness. It is proof of character. It reveals who you are when masks fall away. Endurance also prepares you for greater challenges. Life rarely gives you a single hardship and stops. More often, difficulties come in waves. If you collapse at the first wave, you will drown at the second. But if you endure, if you let the first wave train you, you will meet the next stronger, and the next stronger still. Each hardship endured becomes training for the next. Over time, what once crushed you becomes bearable, and what was once unbearable becomes trivial. Endurance expands your capacity to live. Stoicism does not romanticize suffering. It does not say suffering is good. It says suffering is inevitable, and endurance is the only noble response. We do not seek hardship, but when it comes, we endure it with grace. To endure is to refuse victimhood. To endure is to turn cruelty into training. To endure is to live with strength when life offers you weakness. On a personal level, think of moments when you felt you could not go on, when betrayal, loss, or failure pressed so heavily you thought you would collapse. Yet, you did not. You endured. And looking back, you see that those very moments shaped you most. Endurance is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It makes ordinary people extraordinary. The world will never run out of unfairness. You cannot change that, but you can change yourself. You can become someone who endures, someone who carries pain without surrender, someone who meets injustice with unbreakable strength. And when you do, you discover that endurance is not just survival, it is victory. For each day you endure, you prove that injustice has failed. It tried to break you, but here you are, still standing. That is the truest justice. So when life seems unbearable, when you feel abandoned or betrayed, remember, endurance is not weakness. It is your power. It is your shield. It is your weapon. It is the quiet strength that transforms injustice into growth, pain into wisdom, and weakness into dignity. Endure, and you will outlast every storm. Endure, and you will discover that strength is not in striking hardest, but in standing longest. Endure, and you will learn the deepest Stoic truth, that what survives the longest is always the strongest. When we think of justice, we usually picture balance in the outer world, laws applied fairly, recognition given where it is due, wrongs punished, and rights upheld. And while those are worthy pursuits, the Stoics understood something deeper. The outer world will never be perfectly just. Courts will fail, recognition will be denied, wrongdoers will walk free. If your sense of justice depends only on these things, you will live forever at the mercy of forces you cannot control. But there is a kind of justice no one can deny you, no matter how corrupt or chaotic the world becomes. That justice is inner peace. Inner peace is the justice you grant yourself when you refuse to let external unfairness destroy your soul. It is the calm knowledge that you have lived with integrity, that you have responded to hardship with dignity, that you have kept your values even when the world abandoned its own. It is the only justice that cannot be stolen, for it is not given by others, it is cultivated within. The Stoics remind us that the highest court is your own conscience, and the truest justice is the tranquility of a mind aligned with virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To him, the most profound form of justice was not seeing enemies punished or rewards distributed fairly, but living in harmony with reason and virtue regardless of circumstances. When you achieve inner peace, you rise above injustice without denying its reality. You accept that the world is flawed, yet you refuse to let it dictate the quality of your spirit. This does not mean indifference to injustice. The Stoic does not shrug at cruelty or corruption. Rather, they do what is within their power to act justly, but they refuse to let the failures of the world rob them of serenity. If they can correct a wrong, they do so with calm conviction. If they cannot, they do not surrender to rage or despair. Instead, they guard their peace as a form of justice greater than any court can offer. Why is inner peace justice? Because injustice thrives when it steals your stability. When betrayal makes you bitter, injustice has won twice, once by harming you and again by warping your soul. But when you remain calm, when you respond with clarity instead of chaos, you reclaim justice by denying injustice the power to deform you. You may not control what was done to you, but you always control who you become because of it. To preserve peace of mind in the face of unfairness is to restore balance to the scales of your own life. Think of a man cheated in business. He may rage, curse, and devote his life to chasing retribution. Years later, he is consumed by bitterness, his nights sleepless, his heart hardened. Has he gained justice? Outwardly, perhaps he wins a lawsuit, but inwardly, he has lost far more. Compare him to another man equally wronged. He acknowledges the injustice, acts firmly to protect what he can, and then releases the rest. He chooses not to let resentment corrode him. He builds anew, with calm persistence. Outwardly, the same injustice has occurred, but inwardly, the second man holds justice in the form of peace. His conscience is clear, his mind unburdened, his spirit free. That is the victory Stoicism values most. Peace of mind is not passivity, it is not denial. It is active mastery of the self. It is the ability to feel pain without being enslaved by it, to experience loss without being destroyed by it, to face injustice without losing sight of who you are. This is the justice of alignment, where your inner world remains balanced even as the outer world tilts. History provides luminous examples. Consider Nelson Mandela again. Imprisoned for decades under an unjust system, he emerged not consumed by vengeance, but with a serenity that astonished the world. He chose reconciliation, not revenge. His inner peace was the ultimate justice because it denied his captors the victory of his hatred. He proved that while injustice can chain the body, it cannot chain the spirit unless we allow it. The Stoics trained daily for this kind of peace. They reminded themselves each morning that insults, betrayals, and misfortunes would come. By expecting them, they disarmed them. When the anticipated injustice arrived, they could greet it calmly as something neither shocking nor catastrophic. This mental preparation preserved their peace, and in preserving their peace, they upheld justice within themselves. Modern life tempts us constantly to abandon this inner balance. Social media, news cycles, gossip, all of it invites outrage. We are told that to be silent is weakness, that to be calm is apathy, that to be at peace is to be naive. But the Stoics would say the opposite. Outrage is weakness because it surrenders control. Calm is strength because it holds control. Peace is not naive. It is the highest form of wisdom because it refuses to be poisoned by what it cannot change. Peace of mind is also contagious. When one person meets injustice with rage, they spread more rage. But when one person meets it with calm, they interrupt the cycle. Their serenity becomes a mirror in which others see their own chaos reflected. In this way, inner peace is not only personal justice, it is social justice, radiating outward. By mastering yourself, you show others what is possible. But let us be clear, inner peace is hard work. It requires discipline, reflection, and courage. It demands that you pause when insulted, breathe when betrayed, think when provoked. It asks you to replace the reflex of anger with the practice of patience, the reflex of despair with the practice of hope. It is not natural. It is trained. Yet once trained, it becomes your greatest possession, one that no unfairness can seize. The final justice, then, is not found in the shifting judgments of the world, but in the quiet judgment you pass upon yourself each night. Can you say, I remain true to my principles today. I did not let the world's injustice corrupt me. I kept my peace? If so, you hold justice in its purest form. And that justice matters more than any verdict a court could deliver, any recognition society could bestow, any revenge you could exact. Because in the end, all outer justice fades. Courts change, victories are forgotten, enemies die, but inner peace remains, carved into the soul, unassailable. It is the one form of justice that endures beyond time, beyond circumstance, beyond even death. So when the world treats you unfairly, and it will, do what you can to act justly, to correct what lies within your reach. But once you have done so, let go. Guard your peace as your highest treasure, for the world may strip you of wealth, reputation, even freedom. But if you keep your peace, you keep your justice. The Stoics leave us with this ultimate challenge. Seek not a fair world, but a fair soul. Build not only outer victories, but inner tranquility. For when you hold peace within, you hold justice already. And no injustice, however cruel, can take that away.